A BYU student is injured after witnesses say she jumped from the 4th floor of the Tanner building on campus.
I was like, what? Like, I had no idea,
Reports from former tenants have found hazardous lead in the paint at Lilac Apartments.
The snowy roads have caused almost 250 crashes in Utah.
UTA's center running stations are fully functioning today. Welcome to Newsline. It's Monday, December 3rd. I'm Simeon Toronto.
And I'm Cristina Bolaños. We're starting with breaking news today. Witnesses say a woman who is a student at Brigham Young University jumps from the 4th floor of the Tanner building.
It happened just after 9 o'clock. Newsline reporter Danny Hollows is live at the scene. Danny, what do we know so far?
Yeah, Christina, here's what we know this morning. Around 9:30, a student jumped off the 4th floor of the Tanner building, which is the building you can see just right behind me. It is a tall building. I was inside this morning. They just shut down the building. I was talking to students before they closed classes for the day. And even if those students didn't see the accident, everyone is still in shock.
Because we had some friends that were in class already and they heard her fall, or a couple of my friends actually were the 3rd floor and saw, which is so incredibly scary.
So the student, who is a female, hit the ground on the bottom floor by the Christmas tree, and there was blood all over the floor. Eyewitnesses are saying that paramedics were quickly on the scene within about 5 minutes. They rushed her out of the building and to the hospital. She is in Utah Valley Hospital. We just confirmed that in the press conference. Now, we called this hospital a few moments ago, but the victim has not yet been named or given an age. There are counseling services available for students today. Some students are still just walking, being cleared out of the building. But for those students who were there, who were triggered by the event, they can visit counseling services in room 1500 of the Wilkinson Center. Reporting on Tanner Building at BYU campus, I'm Danny Hallows, Newsline.
Thanks, Danny. This morning, the Utah Valley Express bus line switched over from using its temporary stops on the side of the road to using the new dedicated bus lanes.
Chris Torres is live in Provo to see how passengers are using these new center stations.
Hi, yeah, we're at the Academy Square stop in Provo, and we are witnessing the first day of the UVX using the center stops in the middle of the street. Now, of course, the UVX opened a few months ago in August, and they opened before these center stops were done, and that was to accommodate the BYU and UVU students who'd be using the line. Now, of course, the day has come when the center tracks are open, so they've closed those temporary stops that were on the side of the road. And so we've seen a lot of people come through here during this peak commute time, which is between like 6 and 9. So I have one of our UVX employees here. Let's talk a little bit about safety. So I know these new bus lines are probably pretty complicated for any drivers out here. What's a tip you have for motorists?
Yeah, you'll notice in our new UVX lines that we have dedicated bus-only lanes, but we're asking some of the motor vehicle drivers to try and stay out of the bus-only lanes.
I've heard that these bus lanes take up over 50% of the actual route, which makes it a lot more efficient, I guess, for buses running through the line. Is that right?
Yeah, so you have 5 miles of dedicated bus lanes.
Well, we've talked to a few riders here, and here are some of the notes that these riders have to say about the bus in general and about these new center stations.
I know some people do drive, but most of the people that I know usually take the bus.
I'd rather not drive, honestly. It stresses me out. There's way too many cars on the road.
I have to cross university to get on the bus. So with the middle stops open, it makes it easier for me.
Now, of course, the UVX is free to all users who wish to run between the Provo and Orem Frontrunner stations. For Newsline in Provo, I'm Chris Torres.
Utah Highway Patrol reports snow has caused more than 200 crashes statewide in Utah since yesterday. More than 100 of these crashes took place in Utah and Salt Lake counties. UHP reports that 70-plus crashes have occurred in Juab County alone as of yesterday, including several that piled up one after another in Nephi. Here are all of the photos from that pile of crashes and slide-offs, which happened on I-15. UHP released statements to remind drivers to be careful and cautious while driving in snowy and icy conditions. UHP recommends knocking your highway speeds down by at least 10 to 15 miles per hour. They also recommend adding 8 to 10 seconds of following distance to give drivers more response time in the event their cars start to fishtail or slide out. Other good tips for winter weather driving are to accelerate and decelerate slowly, slow down your driving speeds, and don't stop on hills or power through them. For more winter weather driving tips, visit highwaysafety.utah.gov.
Community members held a candlelight vigil last night to mourn the death of police officer David Romrell. The South Salt Lake Police Department held the event at the Columbus Community Center in South Salt Lake. Hundreds attended and mourned the life and service of the officer and veteran. Officer Romrell was killed on duty after being struck by a car. Funeral services will be held Wednesday at the Maverick Center in West Valley City.
Former tenants of an apartment complex in Provo have tested and found hazardous lead in the paint. Newsline reporter Sarah Collins investigates.
A family moved out of Lilac Place in Provo after the results of a test at their son's annual checkup showed he had higher levels of lead in his blood than normal.
In October, a family living in Lilac Place apartment complex in Provo were shocked when their doctor told them at their 1-year-old's annual checkup that he had shown higher levels of lead in his blood. They wondered what could have caused these results, and they discovered that the danger came from within the walls of their own home after the EPA did a screen test of the paint in their apartment. James Reinhardt spoke on the phone about his experience.
But it was still kind of scary, just since we didn't know about lead in the apartment until we had seen it come up in our kids' blood.
James mentioned that his contract never disclosed any indication that this could be an issue.
And yeah, as far as we understand, through the Fit Housing Act, it would be illegal to not let people know that there's lead, or that there could be lead.
The tenants who lived in the apartment before James were also unaware of any danger.
And I was like, what? Like, I had no idea. Like, I wouldn't have sold you the contract had I known that there was, like, lead in the apartments.
Other tenants have not heard about the problem.
You just moved in and they didn't tell you about this?
No, I had no idea.
Most buildings around here seem pretty old, so like most of them seem like they'd be at risk to have the same problem.
According to the U.S. Department of Housing, landlords are required to disclose any information concerning lead-based paints or lead-based paints hazards. James and others who have had this experience ask that landlords and property owners recognize this issue and plead that a change will be made.
I don't know. If anything could have happened better, or how I would have loved for it to go differently, it's just if landlords would be able to take the responsibility to test for those things.
Any tenant who lives in a complex that was built before 1978 should have their apartment tested by contacting their local Department of Housing.
Thanks, Sarah.
This week's BYU's International Student Services launches a new website for its DACA and refugee students. The purpose of the site is to support this specific group of students on campus. Reporter Berto Sanchez joins us now. Berto, what can you tell us about this new website?
BYU's DACA and refugee students are now going to be able to feel part more of the university. This program is meant to help support this group of students with information about their scholar needs.
Dreamers, undocumented and DACA students at BYU will now have access to a campus website made specifically to meet their needs, a repository of resources and places where students can find information about things that might be able to help them.
This is a population that I care a great deal about. This is a group that I think is often forgotten here on campus and doesn't often feel like they've got the resources I think that other groups have.
A long-awaited project that has slowly but surely come to realization.
Over the years, I've met a lot of the students, and we've done focus groups, and we've done things to try and assess what the needs are and how to best help. So it's been a joy to work with them.
Concerned of the stigmas and fears of being part of a marginalized community, BYU is a safe place not only for this group of students, but for all of its student body.
Intentionally, we don't track the students as far as their specific status. So I would guess that we have 200 to 300, but I don't know. And that's, in my opinion, a good protection for the students.
This initiative was a joint effort of the administration and the international student offices to assess students with community helplines and places, on and off-campus scholarships, and a free immigration clinic on campus.
This was, I would say, a joint effort between our office that meets with students that come in and ask questions, and the administration wanting to give support where they can. You know, what we can do, we're going to do, and hopefully make them feel like they're valued and cared about.
For more information on the new website, visit www.dreamers.byu.edu. Back to you.
Thanks, Berto.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints held its annual Christmas devotional last night. President Russell M. Nelson told a story about an angel he met. He spoke of 12-year-old Lydia Terry, who has a rare aggressive form of brain cancer. Nelson invited Lydia to stand so the audience could see her angelic face. The president says that all people should have faith like Lydia.
I want to tell two stories that happened to me which have kind of stayed in my mind for many years, and even now they're teaching me lessons that I need.
Other speakers of the night were Apostle Gary E. Stevenson, Sister Sharon Eubank from the Women's Organization, and Elder Terrence N. Vincent from the Presidency of the 70. Music for the devotional was performed by the famous Tabernacle Choir. The choir sang traditional Christmas songs like Joy to the World and Silent Night, but finished with Handel's Hallelujah Chorus.
Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are attacked in Brazil during worship service. We'll tell you how they were attacked and by who.
We really couldn't put on Festival of Trees without the participants.
1, 2, 3.
The Festival of Lights is known for the donations and auctions, but most people don't know about the volunteers that are involved. We'll tell you how these volunteers go the extra mile for the donors.
Find out how many inches of snow on the ground and how much more to come expected. Stay tuned.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
What's Beethoven's favorite fruit? Banana.
How does a tissue dance? Put a little boogie on it. Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Around 36,000 people took part in protests across France on Saturday. While the turnout was lower than the previous 2 weekends, protesters clashed with police, torching cars, erecting roadblocks, and burning barricades. The Yellow Vest movement protests against rising gas prices and taxes on polluting forms of transport. Macron has asked Prime Minister Edouard Philippe to meet with political and protester leaders to determine a solution. French President Emmanuel Macron was overheard telling the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, "I am worried, and you never listen to me," on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Argentina. A spokeswoman for Elysee Palace told CNN the two leaders spoke about the investigation into the death of Jamal Khashoggi, the crisis in Yemen, and oil prices.
4 members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from Brazil are recovering after being wounded by an attacker while at church. Reports showed this 28-year-old man being arrested after coming into an LDS church house in Guiana, Brazil, armed with knives. He entered the church during a worship service and wounded 4 members before the attacker was arrested. Condolences and fond memories alike have been pouring in since former President George H.W. Bush passed away late last Friday night. Kristen Holmes has the latest on the funeral arrangements. Kristen?
A few hours, former President George H.W. Bush will begin his final trip to Washington, D.C. Now, the presidential aircraft that will take him there is already on the ground here in Houston. They have redesignated and renamed it for these final flights to Washington, D.C., and then, of course, back here to Texas as Special Air Mission 41 in honor of the 41st president.
He was simply one of the world's kindest and most decent men.
While family and friends are coping with the death of former President George H.W. Bush.
I've been there with 8 presidents and as an elected official, and none had more class and a greater sense of decency than President Bush.
The world formally begins its long goodbye today. In Washington, D.C., one last time, an arrival ceremony at the U.S. Capitol, where the popular president will lie in state until Wednesday morning. Then, a private funeral service at the National Cathedral, before Bush returns home for a second service in his adopted state of Texas, to be buried at his presidential library in College Station, next to his beloved wife Barbara and daughter Robin. The 41st president died at the age of 94.
People shouldn't mourn the life of George H.W. Bush. We're celebrating a life that was so well lived.
His final words spoken to his oldest son, former President George W. Bush.
And 43 said, "I love you, Dad, and I just want to, and I'll see you in heaven." And 41 said, "I love you too." And those were the last words that he ever spoke.
And we have heard over and over again that former President George H.W. Bush was a big family man, so it seems fitting that his final words were to his son. And we've learned that his son, the former President George W. Bush, will accompany the casket to D.C. today, along with his son Neil, several of his grandchildren, some of his close friends, and former staffers. Reporting from Houston, Texas, I'm Kristen Holmes. Back to you.
Thanks, Kristen.
The 48th Annual Festival of Trees took place this weekend, raising money for the children at the Primary Children's Hospital. As Christmas trees, holiday decor, and even playhouses were sold, Newsline reporter Sydney Storer followed the auction items to see just where they were going and how. Sydney, what happens after the auction?
Purchase Christmas trees or even playhouses, there's a group of volunteers that donate their time and even business to get them delivered.
Christmas trees, the decorations, the gingerbread houses, and even the playhouses are all donated. Businesses like this one contribute to the cause by donating trucks and drivers who deliver the auctioned items.
Anytime you have to deliver stuff in a neighborhood with snow, it always presents a challenge, but it's for a good cause and it's kind of fun.
Brittany Anderson's mother is just one of the many people who participated in the auction by purchasing the playhouse for her grandchildren.
My mom, she loves the Festival of Trees too. She bought the house for my grandkids, which is so nice. But she loves to buy something every year.
Meanwhile, at the Expo Center, other volunteers are prepping the purchased Christmas trees for send-off, making sure it all arrives in one piece.
We just delivered this Mickey Mouse's Christmas tree to Ames Construction. They purchased it from Festival of Trees.
The festival runs on volunteers. Families, organizations, and businesses donate, purchase, and help deliver the items, spending countless hours and days helping those in need.
They volunteer because they want to help the children, and this is such a great cause. It's a way to give back to the community, and we really couldn't put on Festival of Trees without the participants. I'll call the first people and let them know we're on our way.
All right, sounds good.
Volunteers this year, and they even delivered more than 800 trees. Back to you.
Thanks, Sydney.
Check out this webcam overlooking Utah Lake. It looks like the middle of the camera was able to melt away the snow, but along the edges we can see that snow has stuck to the camera, and we can see the whole valley is covered in snow and quite a few inches in the mountains. We see icicles hanging from houses and the Ochre Mountains covered in snow. Quite a beautiful sight. Luckily the temperatures aren't too freezing. We see a lot of cloud coverage coming through the United States, but a lot of it is just kind of not moving right here, which means that nothing will happen a ton this week. We're looking at blue skies today, which is nice, although that will drop the temperatures because there's less heat being trapped with the clouds when it is snowing. But we hopefully will not be too cold with those freezing temperatures tonight. our current shot right now in Provo. We are looking at Provo campus with the snow-covered mountains. Our highs for this week are, one second, we are having technical difficulties. We will be able to check those out in just a second. We have lows dropping into 12 degrees for tonight. We also are looking at a highs in the mid-30s throughout the whole week. Our highs today are 34 degrees in Provo, 30 degrees in Logan. Down in St. George, we're dropping into the 40s with 47 degrees. Our lows are dropping even into the 8 degrees and 4 degrees in some areas, and we will be right back.
I don't remember how it started.
What's that?
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
What's Beethoven's favorite fruit? Banana.
How does a tissue dance? Put a little boogie on it. Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham-bam minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high-five.
Following a 6-6 season, the BYU Cougars have been asking what bowl game they would be playing in. It was announced yesterday that the Cougars would be going up against the Western Michigan Broncos December 21st in the Idaho Potato Bowl in Boise, Idaho. The Cougars are 0-5 at Boise State all time. However, Western Michigan opens as a BYU opens as a 14-point favorite over the Broncos. The last time these two played was almost 50 years ago in 1970, where the Broncos beat the Cougars 35-17. BYU has an all-time bowl record of 14-20-1. Their last bowl win was in 2016. Following a win in straight sets Friday against Stony Brook University, the BYU Cougars would face off against a solid Utah Ute squad Saturday night. BYU dominated the Utes in all aspects of the game, defeating them with ease in straight sets. With 2 games under their belts, BYU has not lost a single set in the tournament. This is the 7th straight year that BYU has reached the Sweet 16. With this win against Utah, BYU will continue to have home court advantage as they face off against Florida this Friday. BYU went up against Weber State, the Weber State Wildcats this Saturday, looking to get out of a slump that they have been in. The Cougars had a hard time from 3 as usual, only shooting 35% and only 66% from the free throw line. Meanwhile, Weber State was shooting 44% from the 3 and scoring 66 points in the second half. This was the first win Weber State had against BYU in 15 years. Following this loss, this now puts BYU at 5-4 on the season. They are yet to win a game on the road, and BYU will face off against Utah State in Provo on Wednesday. The Utah Jazz was avoiding the snow yesterday in Miami as they went up against the Miami Heat.
Gets it to Mitchell, shoots the 3, missed it. Game's over, but Heat win it. 102.
The game stayed tight at the end of the fourth quarter, with veteran Dwayne Wade and Donovan Mitchell trading buckets back and forth. Wade was fouled with 3 seconds to go and sunk 2 free throws to put them up by 2 with 3 seconds to go. And with that loss, the Jazz are now 11-13 on the season. The Jazz will return to Salt Lake City to face the San Antonio Spurs tomorrow.
Every year, the Disney-certified Up House in Harriman hosts a charity event. Newsline reporter Taylor Hansen was there this weekend. We understand a special visitor made an appearance at the event.
Yes, Santa Claus himself showed up to take pictures with the community members who gathered for a great cause.
Lynette and Clinton Hamblin live in the official Disney Up House and have found a way to use it to raise money for charity each holiday season.
So we wanted to do something to give back during the holidays, and we were trying to think of it, and we get a lot of attention for our house, and we thought what better organization to work with than people who help the homeless.
This weekend was their 6th annual Pictures with Santa charity event for the road home.
We just want to bring some of that attention to that comes to our house, bring that awareness and attention to those who are out in this cold all the time. They don't have a roof over their head, and the road home provides that for them.
Each year, families and Disney fans alike can donate $10 to the road home in exchange for a picture with Santa in front of the Up House.
I was actually really excited to see the charity because the road home is a really cool place, and to see that they're getting proceeds from this was really exciting.
And the $10 donation that they get will be able to house one person for one night. So it costs us about $12 per night per person to give somebody shelter. And so every picture here is about one person in shelter a night.
The Up House has raised around $1,000 per year in the past, but this year it more than doubled that due to the overwhelming turnout. Heroic, the costume charity organization, even volunteered their services to visit and take pictures with those waiting in line.
This is crazy. We've got people lined up to the corner of the street, and it's awesome.
The Hamblin family looks forward to continuing to bring more Disney magic and spirit of giving in the coming holiday seasons.
Go to theroadhome.org for more information on how you can donate.
What a cool initiative that was, huh?
Thanks for joining us today on Newsline. Have a great day.